Hi community of awesome, I'm Ava J and this is Bookish Pixie. Okay, so let's talk cliches. There are like a ton of cliches that you should be avoiding in your writing for one reason or another, and I'm not going to try to cover all of them. However, today I am going to cover 4 really common cliches that you should probably try to avoid in your writing. First, the protagonist describing themselves in the mirror. How many of you start your day by checking out the nearest mirror and thinking, I have short brown hair and brown eyes and I have light skin and I have a little acne under my jaw because even though I'm in my mid-20s, acne never really goes away. And also, people don't do that. You don't go to a mirror and then start describing yourself to yourself. Like that just doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? And it's just as ridiculous in writing. People often see it as lazy writing because it is lazy writing, so find a better way to describe your character. The only time I've seen it work was actually in Divergent, where at the very beginning, Tris describes her own reflection in the mirror. However, the reason it worked is because Tris wasn't allowed to look at her own reflection, and this was like the only time in the whole year, if I remember correctly, where she was actually allowed to see what she looked like. So it made sense in that context. And points for creativity. Second, starting a book with waking up. I see so many unpublished manuscripts and excerpts in which the book starts with the protagonist waking up and then getting dressed and brushing their teeth and probably describing themselves in the mirror and then going over to the kitchen and making themselves Eggos, and that is not where the story starts. The story doesn't start at the beginning of an ordinary day for your protagonist. The story starts either at the inciting incident or right before the inciting incident, which is the incident that kicks off the rest of your novel. One exception is actually Beyond the Red. I broke that rule with my debut novel. Yes, I did. The reason I got away with it is because the story doesn't start with my protagonist waking up for a normal day in his life. The story starts with my protagonist waking up with a literal gun to his head. That's a little different. So you can play with that cliche, you just have to understand why it doesn't work and generally avoid it otherwise. Third, the love interest who completes or cures the protagonist. I'm sure you've all seen this, whether in a book or a movie. It pretty much always happens with a female protagonist, and then she meets this guy and he's super handsome and they fall in love and he just completes her. Yeah, no, don't do that. The other version I've seen of this, which is even worse, is where the female protagonist has a mental illness and then falling in love cures her mental illness. What? For the love of God, do not do that either. Why not? Because 1, it's just super cliche, and 2, it's just a really bad message. Your protagonist should find meaning in themselves, and they can fall in love too, but you can't really participate in a healthy relationship if you haven't accepted yourself first. So yeah, and especially with mental illness, because mental illness does not just go away when you end up in a nice relationship. So yeah, totally fine for characters to fall in love, but it should not be the magical cure-all for all the protagonist's problems either. And speaking of cures, the 4th one is the sick or disabled character who is magically cured at the end. This is so frustrating, and you see it all the time where the sick character at the end will discover they weren't sick after all, yay! Or the disabled character at the end will quite literally be magically cured and their disability just goes away. This sends a really harmful message that sick and disabled people can't have a happily ever after unless they're magically cured, which in real life is not going to happen for them. So this just needs to end, because disabled and chronically ill people can have perfectly happy lives while still dealing with their disability or chronic illness. So this just needs to stop. So that's what I got for today. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and comment, and I'll see you guys next week.